So we're on. Bobby, really good to have you.
Pleasure to be here.
So for those of you that don't know, Bobby's an inspirational speaker. He's a coach. He's one of the most prolific advocates of heart-based leadership. 5 times TED speaker, Inc. magazine top 100 leadership speaker. He's had 3 books, one of which is a best-selling book, and he's a big advocate of authentic networking, and he has multiple contributions on Huffington Post, as well as the founder of DYPB, which is Discover Your Personal Brand. Now, I remember back in 2014, I actually attended one of your events. That was the first time that I saw you. And from there, I was really captivated by, the energy that you put into speaking, the way that you tell stories, how much passion you put behind it. And obviously, given how much experience you have, I thought it would be great to, pick your brain on some of the things that I want to gain more insights on. So, anyways,
Sure.
how are you, Bobby?
Sure, man. It sounds good. Thanks for the nice intro, and I'm happy to help any way I can.
Great, thank you. Before we jump into it, how's the COVID situation been? How are you dealing with it, with the family and everything?
It's hard. I mean, it's very complicated. The kids require a lot of attention, and so there's two parts that have been challenging. One is it's affected the speaking industry tremendously. So all the speaking stuff has been completely canceled and kiboshed, and so we're now having to figure out how do we go virtual, how do we pivot towards doing more online stuff. So I've been pivoting to doing more online coaching, consulting for people with their brands or their speaking, their storytelling, the video content, things like that. And then the other thing is managing the kids, because they take a lot of our time. So I have less time now to deal with the business. And like today, I got my daughter a play date, which is great, but my son is here and he's like, what do I do? And so trying to figure that out, I think, is a big challenge for parents with young children. So, but I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years. I've been a parent for 10 years. So, I'm pretty resilient. I continue to have conversations with lots of people. I work with my coach. I work with the people I work with my team to try to just keep checking in on a daily, weekly basis. I think that's working pretty well.
Great, yeah, and I've been following your stories all along. Anyone who knows you knows you're a very good and great father, very, very big on family as well. So kudos to you on that, and hope things are going as smooth as possible. Because, like you said, kids are at home as well, so it gets a little tougher, managing the time. So,
Yeah.
diving right into some of your content, I was watching a few of your TED Talks. Obviously, the one on how to change someone's life in 20 seconds. Your 5 C's for connection and things like that. Now, because we're short on time, I only want to touch on 2 topics. One is communication, and the other one is developing a vision. So, I'm 25 years old right now, and I'm just starting out my career. It's been 2 years since I graduated. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the same boat. So, following your journey, I realized that you found out what your passion is, and you found out what you want to do eventually, and what your calling is. And amongst all the other distractions, especially nowadays, I wanted to know, do you have any advice or do you have any key points where you would like to talk about, let's say, to a younger generation on how they can find their passion, and obviously how they can get through all of those distractions to develop the leadership skills that are necessary to get them from where they are right now to where they want to be.
Yeah, so the general thing I'll say is that, I spent a lot of my time feeling lost and stuck and unfulfilled in different career paths. And I wish I'd done it sooner. I wish I'd figured it out at a earlier time in my life. So I'm huge with telling young people, listen, the time is now for you to focus and invest in your personal brand, align your values, really figure out what's the best place to create that purpose where, you find out what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what they're willing to pay you for it. And the reason why it's so challenging is because most of us follow a path to success defined by other people, our parents, corporations, society, right? They tell you to do certain things. And then, a lot of people go follow the pressure of other sources rather than define their own kind of success. Like, how do you define success? What's important to you? And so I always tell people, like, focus, even the junior high school level, figure out what is it that you're really passionate about, what do you value, and keep evaluating that every couple of years, because you change tremendously 15 to 28, a lot of changes you'll go through. So my first thing is to invest in your personal brand, to really figure out what that is, understand how it works, how you work, how you're perceived, what you love, what you don't love. And when you do that, you'll have a way greater sense of clarity and purpose and direction on what you're doing. And then once you know what you want to do and what you want to build, you can go there full throttle, head first, in a sprint to build it up and hustle as much as you can. Because when you're young, you have a lot of hustle. When I was your age, I was working as an engineer and I was bored, so I started a musical theater company, and I hustled that theater company, grew it to 150 people in 4 years. Now, it wasn't, I did it because I was passionate about musical theater, but at the time, I didn't really think about what I was doing, or was it towards a greater goal. But sometimes now I wish I'd gone back and actually thought about doing something that aligned with who I was and was profitable. Like I read, it was a nonprofit thing that I did. But, I remember how much energy I had. Man, I was like staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning doing press releases and planning marketing copy, and then weekends doing fundraising car washes. And I was just hustling like crazy. And it's amazing how much success we had. So you guys have the energy to really put that energy into understanding who you are. You have this desire to impact,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's three things everybody wants. Okay, everybody wants to have impact, results, success, achievement, legacy, right? That's what they want. Number two, everybody wants focus. I want to have clarity. I want to have purpose. I want to have direction. I want to have a clear outline of exactly where I'm going to go, where I want to go. And the third thing they want is alignment, which is like, it's got to be meaningful to me. It's got to align with my values. It's got to make me feel fulfilled and happy and passionate, things like that. And young people in particular are really all about the impact. They really want the impact. When you get older, you start thinking about alignment and meaning, right? But you can have all three. And, but it's important to actually, with a personal brand, to realize that if you actually invest in your personal brand, you will have alignment and you will have focus. And the magic pill is that if you have focus and you have alignment, that's when you get impact.
Focus and alignment. That's very important.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So focus is something that is more straightforward in terms of understanding. Okay, so someone's telling me have more focus. Yeah, it's very difficult, especially in a time where we're bombarded with information all the time. And,
right.
We're constantly seeing other people's lives as well. And we start having doubts. Is the journey that I'm taking the right one? Oh, look at the other person. They're actually like going way ahead. Thoughts like that, right? They kind of put you off balance if you actually don't focus. So that's absolutely correct. But do you have any strategies on dealing with that?
Well, again, that's why if you've done the work to understand your values and your personal brand, you understand how people perceive you, and you've done the online assessments. The thing with personal branding is that you do your own assessment, you get the assessment of others, and you get the assessment of online tools. And then all three of them, you find the threads that fit. So when I did the process, I found out that Bobby loves people. Yeah. And then I found out that Bobby loves to persuade and influence. Bobby loves to perform and present. Bobby loves nurturing, and Bobby loves diversity. And so when I saw those 5 things, and they were very empowering and validating, because every single piece of the process all said the same thing. They all said it. My entire feedback network said, Bobby, these are the 5 things that you are. The online assessment said, Bobby, these are the 5 things you are. And when you do that, it's very empowering. Mm-hmm. And so it actually helps with the focus, because once you come up with your mission and your why and what you're doing, it's very easy to stay focused, because you always have this thing to kind of lean back on. Now, if you fall off your focus, then what I would say is, one, it's good to have an accountability group or an accountability coach to help you stay focused. But if not, always go back to your values and always go back to your fulfillment, your happiness. Mm. Like you're working on a job, or you're working for a startup, or you're volunteering for this thing. Does it fulfill me? Right? If it doesn't, if you feel like it doesn't fulfill you, or you're not excited to go, or there's no drive there, then you need to re-examine.
Yeah, time for a change.
Yes, time for a change, or because either you can either accept the situation as it is, or you can change the situation as it is, or you can exit the situation. You have to figure out which one you want to do.
Interesting. And yeah, when you say that, it reminds me, you said something about you can either react to a change, embrace change, or be the creator of a change, right?
Yeah, exactly. Take ownership of your life and create the changes you want for yourself. And I often talk about the idea of like fight for your life. You have to fight for the things you want to fight for, the life that you want to live, that aligns with who you are, that fulfills your values, that makes you feel happy and joyous and and impactful. You have to fight for the career you want. You have to fight for the person you want to marry. You have to fight for your own physical, personal, and mental health.
Mm-hmm.
These are things you have to fight for, and they're worth fighting for. And if you ever watch my video on my website, that it's kind of my supportive, inspiring video. But I say, look, if you're willing to fight for your life, I'm willing to help you fight too. But
Yep.
you have to be willing to fight for it. Because if you won't, who will? If not you, then who? If not now, then when?
Right.
Now is the time to fight for the life that you want. That's going to be aligned with who you are. And the good news is that once you've done the work and you identify that, okay, this is you've identified this is the path that I want to spend the rest of my life doing. You want the rest of your life to start right away, which is very exciting. And that's why whenever you see me being passionate on stage, it's because I'm living my life, my purpose of what I want, and that's why I'm so excited. If you'd seen me in my engineering days, here's what I look like. Here's my mouse. For 10 hours a day, that's what I look like. Can you imagine?
You were not passionate about it, right?
No, not at all. Nor good.
Well, no, that's definitely important. And I saw your other video where you said it's important for personal branding to invest in yourself, be honest with yourself, and be open to feedback, which is sometimes one of the hardest things because a lot of us have some ego and we don't want to listen to when someone talks about our blind spots or something that we need to fix. Like you said, others' perception of you. Sometimes you can't see your own blind spots. So that's definitely something important.
And I think feedback, I mean, a lot of young people are usually quite good at feedback. Like they want feedback, they seek feedback. I think the part where they get screwed up is when they take the feedback of one person and make this huge change,
Just
right?
based on one person.
On one person. I mean, if one person tells you something, that's nice. But if 10 people tell you the same thing, that's another story.
That's
So
a
when
pattern.
when I was trying to figure out what I want to do, most people said to me, "Hey, Bobby, you ever thought of becoming a speaker?" And then when the first person said, "Yeah, maybe," and the second person, "Well, yeah, I don't know," and then by the time the 10th person, like, "Yeah, you know what? Good point. Everyone's saying it. Let me think about this more specifically."
Interesting. And so talking about that, the feedback that you get from people, one feedback that I got from a lot of people is, I'm a good communicator and I'm a people's person, but I don't feel that way. And sometimes I feel like I'm a fraud, for example. You know that feeling that you
Imposter
have.
syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. So what if I'm not being genuine? What if this person is not perceiving me the way that I want them to perceive me, etc. So on that front, communication, what do you think is the most important factor to be a good communicator? And by good communicator, I mean, first of all, get your message across, but not just that. Be assertive when you need to be. Use words and phrases that are as simple as possible. I'm not sure exactly which of these factors play the biggest role, but I was wondering if you could have some insight on that.
Well, the general way about communication is that one is to really it's like speaking. Always focus on your audience, right? So think about who you're talking to and what their biggest needs are. So my goal when I communicate to people is to always provide tremendous value to whoever I'm talking to. So I always think about my audience and my target audience. That's the first thing. The second thing that really helps is empathy. To invest in a story and empathize on what they're going through. So because if you know who they are, then you can start to understand the pain points. So if you and I met for coffee, I'd say, let me find out about Reza's story and what his struggles are, what his pain points are, and then empathize with those things. And then once I understand that, then try to figure out how I can help them. And I find that works really, really well when it comes to communication, to know your target audience, how they feel, what their pain points are, and then when you communicate, try to communicate in a way that provides as much value as you possibly can. The other thing that comes with communication is, asking really deep dive probing questions to really unravel the stuff that you want to figure out. In my TED talk where I talk about the 5 C's of connection, I talk about, one is caring in a very genuine, authentic way. But the second is communicating in a very assertive way to get to the meat and to get to the soul and get to the heart of the matter versus the surface stuff. And if you can do it in a caring, authentic, genuine way, and you communicate in that assertive, straight to the point, no holds barred, but also with a little bit of empathy, that's when you create that powerful connection that can make a difference. And so, the best communicators are the ones who create that deep personal connection.
Interesting. And authenticity, right? Authenticity is very important. That's like the base of communication, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the people who fake it till they make it, that's not the way to go, because then you build up a life that's completely fake and inauthentic. You want to be authentic in terms of, sharing your needs, sharing your values, being genuinely curious with people, and just trying to help them. Like my number one rule for networking and leadership is, is how can I help you make a difference? It's the question that's in my mind every single time I talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can be of value to them, I will.
And what do you think about changing mindsets from expecting some people to give back when you give something to them versus only providing and just letting the universe give back to you at the right time? Because sometimes, it's tough to wind down on the expectations front when you're giving a lot to people and not getting anything back.
Yeah, I mean, so there's lots of ways to think about that. So one is having expectations all the time is a really difficult way to go because you're often going to get let down.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of sucks. Then there's the giving aspect, which I think is really important. And then waiting for karma to happen is also, I don't think it's the way to go either, because then a lot of people again get disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
And there is some sort of expectation in there where if I give, the karma will feed my soul, and next thing you know, I'm going to be a millionaire. I think the key part here is asking for help, going for the ask, just ask. A lot of people, like if I always give and provide value, but ultimately if I want something or if I need something, I will ask for help. And I think that that's where you're going to really make an impact. Be willing to ask for what it is you want. The worst they could do is say no.
Yeah.
It may not work out, but some of the best opportunities I've had in my life have happened because I've asked the question. I've been willing to ask that question to other people. And this applies in anything, whether it's dating or whether it's business. You have to ask for the sale. You have to ask for the date. You have to ask for those opportunities. Don't just, certainly give and don't expect, but the other piece is ask.
Interesting. Yeah. Take the initiative to go ahead and ask and see what happens. Not be afraid of the end result. So that's interesting. Thanks for that. And talking about yourself, how is your personal journey going? Are you still active with the Discover Your Personal Brand company that you have?
Yeah.
Or how's that going? What's your plan for that in the future?
Well, I mean, COVID has really, really hit us hard in terms of having to rejig things. So as a speaker, I was going to live events and doing lots of training, speak on stage. That's now shut, and now we're doing it virtual. So I was going to go to Poland to speak. It then got moved to the fall, and now it's virtual. So I'll do a virtual talk in September. Same with DYPP. We were doing live events and in-house trainings. We can't do this anymore, so now we're doing virtual stuff. But DYPB is something I'm putting a lot of time and energy into it because I think it's right now during COVID in particular. COVID has forced people to really focus on the virtual world. And the virtual world, therefore, has made it more apparent that having a strong online presence, a strong LinkedIn presence, a strong personal brand, a strong thought leadership brand is huge. And so people are now thinking about, how do I take my brand to that next level? They're also now thinking about, I'm working from home. Do I really like my job? I like being at home. They're not thinking about pivoting, repositioning, reevaluating. They're thinking about starting a side hustle. And again, that's where personal brand comes into play. So to that end, we've actually launched a personal branding discovery course and program. So there's basically it's basically taken my day-long workshop I used to do for years and put it into 25 videos and 30 plus exercise questions with about 23 hours of homework to help you really refine your brand, your top 5 to 10 brand elements, your mission, vision, and why, to help you then design the right personal brand and strategy for you going forward. So I'm hoping that's going to help lots of people. We're also putting together a community around that where people can join in on this private Facebook group, as well as a weekly call where they can actually ask questions around their entire journey, whether it's 6 months to a year or longer. But ultimately, I'm hoping that's going to help people. And then from the speaking perspective, speaking right now is pretty slow. So the focus for me has been really doing individual coaching. So I'm basically coaching some people now on things like storytelling, video content, LinkedIn, personal branding itself, career transition. Transition is a really big topic right now. So that's where I'm spending a lot of my time.
Career transition, that
everyone's thinking about it.
That's really big, right? Because
it's huge.
This is the time when people are starting to pivot with this current situation going on.
Totally, they're pivoting and they're realizing the importance of online. So both those things is why personal branding is so important.
Yeah, and for myself as well, I think that I always tell my friends as well, where you can work a 9 to 5 job. You know, you don't have to always have your own startup, but at the same time, it would really help if somehow, some way you're documenting this journey that you're going through and, you know, creating this package for yourself as who are you, you know, what kind of journeys did you go through? What have you learned? And, you know, at least attempting to put that online in some way, adding value on that front as well.
Yeah, I think everyone needs to be clear on who they are, what they bring to the table, what their value is. And everyone out there who sees you should be clear on that too. Because the moment you know your value and you show your value, everyone will know your value. And that's going to be really important for you.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I know you're really busy as well. If you have any, you know, closing lines, closing thoughts. I usually, by the way, have my podcasts for like 40 plus minutes, but I also know that you got a very tight schedule. So I appreciate you hopping on and looking forward to chatting more in the future as well.
No, I'm happy to help. And, again, like I tell people, like, this is the time, if your audience is mostly young people, this is the time for you to take ownership of your life, to fight for the life that you want to live and live the values that you want. But it takes time and energy. It doesn't come overnight. You have to put the work in to dive into your values, to understand your brand, to ask the right questions, and to put a path forward for yourself that's more clear, that's more focused, and it's more impactful. And if you do the right work and you work with the right people, I guarantee you will get there. And if you're willing to put in, I always say, are you willing to put in 100 hours of your time for 450,000 hours of fulfillment, happiness, purpose, and direction? If you are, then, put the work in, understand your personal brand, and design the life you want.
Appreciate the message, Bobby. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much for your time. Again, really appreciate you hopping on and hope to talk to you again in the future.
Thanks so much.
Take care.